Thank you very much. We must choose whether we are defined by our differences or whether we dare to transcend them. We must choose whether we squander our great inheritance or whether we proudly declare that we are Americans. We do the incredible. We defy the impossible. We conquer the unknown. This is the time to reignite the American imagination. This is the time to search for the tallest summit and set our sights on the brightest star. This is the time to rekindle the bonds of love and loyalty and memory that link us together as citizens, as neighbors, as patriots. This is our future, our fate, and our choice to make. I am asking you to choose greatness. No matter the trials we face, no matter the challenges to come, we must go forward together. We must keep America first in our hearts. We must keep freedom alive in our souls. And we must always keep faith in America's destiny. That one nation, under God, must be the hope and the promise and the light and the glory among all the nations of the world. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Okay.
Great job.
Over to your left just a little bit, Jim.
Great space.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Hey, Mr. President. Mr. President.
Thank you,
That was great. Really good.
Hey, Shyamalan from New York.
Yes.
I tell you about
Anytime you want.
we'll talk about it.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, man.
That's what we talked about. The mothers appreciate you.
This is it.
Yeah.
I will take care of it. We'll talk about it.
Excellent speech.
This is a celebration. It was. Thank you, Mike. I didn't know if you'd ever work.
Really terrific.
Thanks, David. There we go. Yep. Very good.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Great job.
You're good, Chad.
Yeah.
Jim, you good?
Thanks, fellas. Thanks, man. I love that guy to get in. Come sit.
Thank you, Ty. Can you sign it for me? Great job.
It's done. Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Just what America.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Great speech.
Mr. President.
Thank you. How's it going? Good?
Great speech, Mr. President.
Yeah, that was America right there.
Can you, Mr. President? Thank you. God bless you.
How's it going?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Paradise. Bless you. Thank you for
Football. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Best speech you've had in a long time.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I copied more.
Yeah. Wonderful.
What about Queen Spirit copy? You.
Melania right there.
Great job, Mr. President. You got a big applause.
Yeah.
Great job. Thank you, Mr. Thanks. Great speech, Mr. President.
Great speech. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for oh, great job.
Knocked it out of the park, boss.
You guys. Thank you for standing up for life. Thank you. I did.
Damn good speech. Home run.
Thank you, sir.
Home run.
Home run.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, good. Okay.
Great job. Thank you. You too.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Mr. President, great job. Great job. Well done. With you, well done.
Got the kids here.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Great job. Knocked it out of the park.